Welcome to Glow, the podcast that illuminates your path to personal transformation. I'm Jessie Moss, your guide, author, and intuitive healer, here to help you crack wide open and glow from the inside out. I'm so excited that you're here. You are not alone. Let's walk this path together. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Glow podcast. My name is Jessie Moss and I am going to be your guide through this entire podcast, encouraging you to find your personal power, to make choices from a place of response rather than reaction, to heal yourself, to have healthy connections so any work that you do on yourself can really ripple out and start to make an impact to your children, your family, your friends, to anyone that you encounter, because you are leading the way. And this is what Glow is all about. Have you ever felt change in a way where it's really sudden and unexpected? Even when you've been complaining or praying or asking by little phrases that you might make throughout your day with, I'm so sick of this job. I'm done with this relationship. But we keep staying in the situation. So here is when something might happen along the lines of sickness or injury, the relationship breakdown, someone leaves, you lose your job. Change can be so sudden. Whether we've asked for it or not, it doesn't matter. Change can be that momentary point in time that provides you with an opportunity to shift something, how to make decisions from a really powerful place within yourself. So if you're not used to doing that, this is a very foundational episode here. I'm going to break it down for you and make it really easy to understand. When change happens, we tend to feel like we don't have control. We start to feel lost. Things can feel unknown and fear can come in. And fear can be a very big block to change and to doing something differently and to having a successful entry into a new opportunity. Through the change, I like to think of step 2. Change has happened. Now what? What's next? We have a period of transition now. So transition is this place that will take as long as it needs to take for you to learn what you need to learn, feel what you need to feel, process what you need to process to come into this new space, new creation, new job, new relationship, and for you to have a chance to do it better or to do it differently, to learn more about yourself. So change can be scary. It can be unknown. It can be life-changing. It can be big. There is always small daily choices that we can make within this when we feel like we're out of our depth or out of control. And this is the transition piece that I'm going to speak to today. What is in your control? How do we shift our perspective of seeing these things a little bit differently? So this is my invitation for you today. The thing with transition, think about it moving from point A to point B. There are these learnings occurring. There could feel like nothing is happening on the outside. But transition and change provide a really deep opportunity for a lot to happen on the inside. So think about if you've been through a challenge and you've had to think about the way that you behave, the way that you use coping mechanisms, the way that you loop around the same cycle, getting tired of it and wanting to do it another way, but actually getting there and going, I don't actually know how to follow through with that. These are all very normal things. Our reactions to change are also very normal in this transition period where we might get overly anxious and make ourselves very busy to distract ourselves from what we need to feel or learn or do. Also, we can go into shutdown and completely do nothing at all. And then we might come to a place where we've really had enough, and we start to feel that fire within ourselves that says, you know, I'm done here. I'm really done here. I really don't want to do this again. And that is the powerful place to be. It doesn't matter if we move through one of them, if we move through that in order, or if we experience all of it around similar at the same time. It's a normal process. And if we normalize this transition period from change, from destination A to destination B, who is this new version of yourself that you could possibly become through this challenge, through this adversity that's been put upon you, whether you've really asked for it or not? This is where the deeper inner work may be knocking at the door. So in that space where we feel like nothing much is happening, think about the brain rewiring itself. Think about your nervous system learning to expand into new situations, to feel safe, to understand on some level through the mind what's happening. And then usually there's physical exhaustion as well, because there can be a lot happening, a lot of stress moving through the body. And so it is natural to feel exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. These are all parts of breaking away from old patterns and old cycles to start to do it differently. So why I bring this to you to start this podcast off is because it's a very pivotal point to really understand this deeply. I know because I've experienced domestic violence, and 10 years ago when I got out of a very toxic relationship, I had to make some really hard decisions that felt very unsafe for me either way. Whatever I chose didn't feel safe to any part of me, and I didn't exactly understand what was happening in a way that I do now. And so there is a point in time where perhaps we've all been a victim of something. Perhaps we've all had a challenge or experienced something unfair or unjust. And there is a chance that when we stay in that victim space, that we choose victim mentality. And then we go around and around and around. We play the poor me card. When we come out of victim mentality, it doesn't mean that we're not a victim. It just means that we're choosing to do something different with that choice. I feel like when I got into surviving after that, when I realized I'm really at a point now where I have a lot of choices to make. Am I going to heal? Am I going to allow myself to feel this? Where do I even start to seek support? I didn't even know what codependency meant 10 years ago. So it's really important to know that wherever you're at right now, whatever part of this is resonating, take that, and then whatever's not resonating, to just let it go. When we choose to no longer hold victim mentality and we come into surviving, we still carry a very heavy burden of the experience, perhaps in ways through feeling guilt and shame to what we've experienced, or there's something, a sensation or perhaps a density that's just in our life that blocks us from joy, from feeling light, from feeling freedom. And it's this burden of surviving it all the time. So perhaps we haven't fully broken away from that cycle or that pattern. When we do, however, and to what I'm talking about today, is that little spot between survivor and thriving. So there is a little pocket in there from destination A to B where we get to make daily choices and strengthen that resilience muscle to choose again, to choose differently, and to be in a place of power. This is a slow process. This doesn't happen overnight. This is a really deep healing practice that we get to choose. We know that we get to choose. We're worthy enough to choose. All this comes with time, and it comes with practice like anything else. So knowing that when things change, we have this transition period that we float through. This is where we get to make choices. We have options if we choose to see it that way. So remember, it's in what we perceive is happening around us, how we want to view it, how we teach ourselves tools to zoom out of it, and knowing that change is this opportunity to shift, to alchemize our pain into liberation, liberating ourselves of the denser emotions when it's time. And I know 10 years later, I still experience bouts of guilt and shame over where I was and what I thought was normal. That requires me to sit with it from time to time. It requires me to love those parts of myself and to offer forgiveness towards myself as well. So there are always choices. So the thing with change is that it gives you an opportunity to alchemize your stuckness into freedom. So we don't have to get on a plane and go a long way and spend a lot of money on traveling to feel free. There's many different ways that we experience freedom. Freedom can be in setting a boundary and actually really sticking to it. That can alleviate so much stress and worry that we feel free. So freedom can be a very internal experience. Change can really transmute heartache into deep healing. So I refer to our patterns and our conditioning as woundings that we've received. So any of our wounds that we have created with parents in our childhood, or experiences that we've had, or trauma that we've been through, anything that we've been through on our own, we may start to seek validation externally. And so when we know ourselves well, and when we choose healing through that heartache, or marriage breakdown, whatever's happened, this loss, we feel abandoned. When we really look into that wounding, we start to learn ways that we no longer need to choose people that are going to reinforce that story or reinforce that wounding for us, because we start to say, hey, I actually want to do this differently now. And I will talk into old patterns and more conditioning and our old stories and how they loop and repeat more in the next episode. That's the next step. So stay tuned for that one. So for now, change. Next step is transition. Through that transition, we realize, if we can, as best we can, as often as we can, that we have choice. Your choice might start with seeking support. Maybe that's not something that you've ever really had before, and that can be a major life-changing thing. It can be very scary and very unknown to seek support. So it may be your perception of support changes as well. Perhaps we start to see that it takes strength to ask and to receive, and to allow ourselves to have the help when we need it, and that it's not weak. When you're moving through transition, it's really normal to feel out of your depth, because perhaps it's something new that's never happened before. And so old trauma may come up. You may remember memories from childhood. You may revert to certain parts of yourself that don't behave the way that you would prefer to behave. And this is all just a process that we go through to learn, to unlearn, to relearn. It's a constant cycle. We're meant to change. Change is actually inevitable. The one thing that we can always know is that change will happen. We are supposed to evolve. So when we're seeking support, one thing that I do find is when we seek support through people that are known or comfortable, can sometimes reinforce the story or the wounding as well. So it is nice to zoom out a little bit, perhaps seek a professional. You can talk to a therapist. Maybe you see a kinesiologist. You might go to a healer. You can always book in with me. I do one-on-one sessions, and you can find all my information on jessiemoss.com. So someone that's had experience to walk you through, someone that's been from that point A to that point B, and that's had lived experience, can really help to allow you to see what's been in the unseen. So again, this is where a lot of fear can come in, because sometimes we spend our whole life hiding from what is in the unseen, but it is within us. And so eventually it will come up and out. So energetically, the way that could come up and out is that you see it in your external first. Other things could be that it needs to move up and out through your body. So that could be bouts of crying, it could be physical stuff coming out, injuries. So wherever you've stored or suppressed those emotions in your body and that energy has become stuck, this is why over time it just creates that dis-ease throughout your body. In these periods of deep transition and transformation of yourself, you can think of it as, layers of yourself peeling off and you're kind of rebirthing into this new version of you. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes presence, it takes compassion. It takes a lot of things that maybe you feel like you've ran out of, the tank feels low. And I know that most people that I work with, me included, I've been there, where you just, sometimes the only thing that you can do is rest. And transition is a time where you're in that cocoon. So it's okay to rest. It's okay to take breaks from people and things and situations and to really feel what it's like to be in your new energy and to be in what are you creating for yourself next. So knowing yourself well in this space gives you the choice to respond to life differently. What are my new intentions? What are these small daily choices that I'm making and embodying with actions? How I get to show up differently through this opportunity, even though it may feel challenging, even though it may feel really, really hard. So if you really were to sit with, if you're going through a challenge right now, if you've just been through one, or know that when the next one comes, that hearing this and thinking about this and really feeling the resonance of it from the inside out, that you can tap into this when you need it and flex that muscle of resilience, knowing that another layer will come again, another layer of learning, another opportunity of growth, especially if you ask for it, especially if you are sending out that signal of, I've really had enough here and these things just keep happening to me and I'm not sure why. Perhaps it's that something bigger than what we could ever possibly know is giving you this chance, this opportunity. And so know that all of this work, as long as we are connected to our truth throughout that, if we don't know what our truth is, we don't know what our needs and our values are, that is a great place to start. And when we work from this place, it's like everything is of the highest good. Maybe you feel into not passing on patterns to the future generations. Maybe you think about breaking the cycles from all the generations before. Maybe it's that you just choose now to relieve your body of stress, so you're not going to create any dis-ease throughout your system. And imagine when you are doing this work, how many people can actually benefit from being in your presence after you have moved from point A to point B, and you show other people that it is entirely possible to turn a hard situation into something really beautiful. So my invitation for you is to really be with your choices, daily choices. It's not about making big life-changing choices, changing your career overnight, buying a business, cutting off friends, leaving a relationship. It's not about making those big leaps and bounds into the unknown, because the nervous system, the body may not even be ready for that. And so it's thinking about the daily choices in a way of, what am I willing to tolerate? What do I no longer wish to tolerate? Where do I want to place my energy today? How can I really respect myself? Perhaps it's through boundaries, perhaps it's through learning to say no. These are all small things that can turn into very big shifts and changes for you and everyone around you. And one thing that I love while being in this transition space is definitely to feel curiosity allow curiosity to be present. How am I feeling? What do I need now? Things are changing a bit here. Let's start to adjust. Let's adjust and be curious as we're adjusting. At the end of the day, whatever you're moving through, know that you're not alone. So many people experience change, big, heavy choices through multiple times of their lives, and it doesn't take away from your experience. It doesn't invalidate your experience. Staying in victim mentality doesn't mean that it's always going to prove to everyone that you're a victim. You're still a victim if you're thriving and you're choosing differently. That thing still happened to you. So it's important just to take this episode as a zoom out to start to feel into just those little tiny daily choices, because those little tiny daily choices are really what shapes your life. And through growth, that honestly defines all of us, who we're becoming. We're becoming all the time. So if we can use intention and become intentional, it is such a beautiful gift, because we know then in the chaos of change where we're heading to, how we want to direct that energy. So if this resonates with you, or you know someone that needs a free resource to healing, I'm going to go deeper and deeper each episode into just micro steps through how the healing journey really is, and how it's not all love and light. It's not about putting on a mask and telling everyone that you're okay. Things are fine, everything's okay, I'm good. It's not about that. It's not about having to worry that you're too much or too sensitive. It's really about tapping into who you truly are in those moments and allowing all parts of yourself to belong. So the parts that feel afraid, the parts that feel guilty, and the parts that want to turn on you and point the finger of judgment internally. It's all of that, allowing it all to exist, and for the healing journey to start to feel like the challenge may be there, the chaos may be there, but you have choice to ground, you have choice to come back to your center. And this is why I'm here to remind you of that, and to bring this healing forward in a new way, where it doesn't have to be hard and sticky to actually get through what's real and what's true, and allow normality through feeling exhausted, needing to rest, all of that stuff that comes with deeper healing when we choose to do the inner work at new levels, because we're expanding our consciousness. We're bringing the old stuff up to work with it consciously. There's nothing fluffy or love and light about that. That is shadow work. That is the shadow realm, and it's part of the process if you want to liberate yourself of your stories, and if you want to break cycles and be a change maker in the world. If you want to go deeper into this work, you can work with me privately through jessiemoss.com, or you can buy my book Open. So the first episode here is about decisions and making choice, and that is the first chapter of my book. I haven't included anything from my book in these podcasts, but I will refer from time to time to the book Open just through this first season. And so I want to finish with some questions that I ask at the end of the first chapter. I want you to sit with this if you can, and if you have time, just breathing in and out of your body and really feeling into these questions to spark a little bit of curiosity. Imagine that you are to see yourself at a crossroads now with nothing but truth in your heart. What is the outcome of your choice? Is that choice serving you? Does it feel good? Do you want to choose again? What will you decide? It has been a pleasure to show up here and talk about change and transition, hopefully give you some new insights and knowledge around the process. I feel really honored to speak into the things that really light me up and that allow me to be in this world as I am. So from that space, I really appreciate you listening in. Please rate, review, share this podcast. Remember that you have choice. You are whole already. You are not alone. And stay curious.